Hello and hi, we are from AQS 2141 Economics for Quantity Surveyors 1 Semester 1 Session 2020-2021. Would like to present about the economic impacts of COVID-19 towards the firms or company of Malaysia. This is our team members. Firstly, Muhammad Hafiz, next Muhammad Hashlim, Muhammad Harizul, Muhammad Iskandar, and lastly is me, Hadi Farhan. Before we started, I would like to appreciate our lecturer, Dr. Tan Chin Ken, for help us in preparing our assignments. In this presentation, we have 4 parts, which is introduction, data analysis, discussion, and lastly the conclusion. Firstly, on introduction, coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 is a virus that can be spread from another person to another person really quick. As all we know, the coronavirus started at the Wuhan city, China, on the 31st December 2019. After several months, the World Health Organization (WHO) has announced that the COVID-19 is a global pandemic on 11 March 2020. The first case that been identified in Malaysia is on the 23rd January 2020. Day by day, this COVID-19 disease had getting worse in Malaysia until the 16th March of 2020, where the Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin had made announcement for the Movement Control Order (MCO) to the entire Malaysia, where it's starting at 18 March 2020. Because of MCO, many big companies cannot run their business because there are limitations of movement during the MCO. Then, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, had made a statement where the economy of Malaysia have getting lost around 2.4 billion ringgit Malaysia per day, where the total of 63 billion ringgit ringgit Malaysia has lost because of the MCO. For example, big companies like Pemodanan Nasional Berhad (PNB) has second quarter net loss from April to June at around 16.5 billion ringgit because of the MCO.
So I will presenting the effect of COVID-19 to the firm in Malaysia. Okay, so the first effect is laying off workers. So the firm in Malaysia need to consider a lot of things to make sure their companies still running in mid of pandemic without any disturbance in annual expenditures, although the annual income has changes. The extended movement control order announced by the Prime Minister has led to cut off the company expenditures as long as the long-term income has a significant impact by the pandemic, and employers did not have any other considerations regarding the company expenditures cut off. Some companies have asked their employees to take unpaid leave and a salary dip to reduce the company expenditures and to move the expenses to more important ones. According to survey done by JobStreet, 9 from 10 respondents were saying that they need to change their work because of pandemic 19. This is because most of them need to work from home, and it is quite hard for them to adapt with it. Okay. According to the survey also, up to 48% said that they need to continue working from home. Another 38% said that the pandemic has disturbed their expenditures and salary, while another 14% were forced to take leave and laying off by their employers. One of 3 salary reduction, more than 30%. This is because the employer need to cut off their employee salary, and there are also removal of reduction of bonuses and a salary dip among full-time employees. In making decision to retrench employees to cope with the crisis, the employer may target the older employees, which often high paid because the employer need to reconsider Either the older employees can work accordingly with the salaries. Some of the older workers might not well functioning in a remote working setting that require technological skills. Keeping those older employees in company will cause more liability than asset because they might need more time to cope with new normal during pandemic, and this issue need to handle by the company in order to keep the company still running during pandemic. Malaysia government has initiated a stimulus package to save employees that have been laid off and waiting for the time to laying off by the company. This stimulus package was formulated to reduce the impact of Movement Control Order (MCO) on small and medium enterprise (SME). SMEs are allowed to apply for wage subsidies for their employees with the condition that they must retain the employees for at least 6 months from the application date. Wage subsidies that range between 600 to 1,200 ringgit will be offered for each employee depending on the size of the company. The company that register with Companies Commission of Malaysia (SSM) are also eligible to apply for a special grant of RM3,000 and zero interest microloan schemes that might help in alleviate short-term cash flow issues during MCO period. EPF contributors will be allowed to withdraw a portion of their savings from account 2 up to RM5 per month for 12 months for a total of 6,000 ringgit. This scheme can help the employees that have been fired or reduce their salaries to continuing their life in the middle of pandemic. Behind the good impact of withdrawal from EPF account 2, the scheme has a significant proportion of EPF contributors that will not be able to benefit from the scheme. This is because up to 40% of total contributors have less than 6,000 ringgit in their account. The solution for this problem is government has announced the Bantuan Prihatin Nasional (BPN) to help the households that did not have enough savings in EPF account 2. So moving to next presenter.
Second effect is the cash flow problem. Okay, because of COVID-19, companies big and small are forced to control their cash flow status as their first lines of defense. If the cash flow left unmanaged, the company may easily become unsustainable. Malaysia small and medium-sized enterprises (SMEs) said that they expect no cash inflow for at least 3 months due to the MCO, since it was first announced on March 18. SME Malaysia National President Dato' Michael Kang said in a statement, cash flow is the biggest challenge for the SME. He stated further, during that period, the SMEs will also need to continue paying full wages and rental and other fees. Almost 1/3 or 33.3% of the SME will only have enough cash flow in March, although 37.8% can only sustain until April, despite the additional allocation under the Prihatin package of 100 billion ringgit loan to the SME. The special relief fund has yet to be applied by 77.6% of SME, as many of them already have the current loans. They are afraid to do so. Economic instability for the next 6 months would undermine the ability to repay and risk bankruptcy. The banks also rejected 4% out of 22.5% to apply for the loan. Datuk Michael Kang said in his latest interview in October, SMEs will continue struggling with cash flow until Q4 2020. A survey by SME Association of Malaysia found that 22% of 1,713 respondents have cash flow only until the end of October and another 31% until the end of November. For the retail sector, especially because the borders are still closed, those who rely on the international tourists are worse affected. Okay, move on to the next slide. From the analysis before, It is confirmed that the cash flow is a huge problem that will affect the SMEs. Business that rely on in-person custom, for example, pubs or restaurant, they have been particularly hard hit with a less scope to move online. This will largely contribute to declining sales and revenue. Cash flow that is slow or declining can have some profound effects on the business. First of all is late payment. Company, they have to pay all of their expenses and bills. Cash is needed. So the owner will be required to take on extra loans to make late payments if they don't have cash in hand. This can contribute to late payment charges for utilities or debts. In addition, the late payment have a negative effect on the credit rating of the company and affect their ability in the future to receive a credit account privilege or loans. So the second is no dividends. The firm cannot pay out dividend to shareholders without cash flow. In a small business especially, this essentially means that no return on their investment will be collected by the individuals who invested money in the company. So all of these effects can lead to reduced competitive advantage of a firm. In order to gain a competitive advantage over its rivals, the company has to fund the necessary rating strategies. On economy of scale, for example, it would allow them to market their goods competitively since they minimize manufacturing costs by increasing production volumes. However, because they lack adequate funds to buy raw materials and maintain intensive manufacturing activities, they cannot accept economies of scale, and at the end of the day, it can lead them into bankruptcy.
Okay, so I will continue with the data analysis for the closure of operation. So I will start with the source of income and the source of finance for the companies or firm in Malaysia during the MCO period. So for the source of income, during the MCO, according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, 67.8% of the total 4,094 companies in Malaysia stated that the source of income is from the number of the sale or revenue. The rest of them also stated that the source of income is from the online services and also from the online sales. So for the source of finance, 68.9% of the firm use their own savings as the main source to accommodate operating costs for working capital, while 19.8% of the firms dependent on the loan. The rest, 11.3% of them use the capital injection to survive during the MCO period. So with the limited source of income and also source of finance, the companies may face three main issues during the MCO period. The first issues is the salary payment issues. So for the salary payment issues, it can be seen that majority of them, of the firms, using their own savings as the main source to accommodate operating costs or working capital, and some of them also also dependent on the loan, and also use the capital injection to survive during the MCO period. So this may cause them to not able to pay enough for the salary of their workers. So the next one is the number of the customer. So as we all know, some companies may lose a lot of number of customers during the MCO periods. So the last issues is rental payment issues. So for the rental payment issues, it's similar with the salary payment issues, which is the majority of them using their own savings for the as the main source for the firms, dependent on the loan, and also use the capital injection to survive during the MCO period. So they will not able to pay the rental for their own firms. So moving to the next slide is the discussion for the closure of operation. Based on the issues and limited sources that the firms faced during the MCO period, the firm may take a few months to recover back their firms. So 42.5% of the companies or the firms required more than 6 months to recover, while 55.6% of them require less than 6 months to recover back to normal. However, 1.9% of the firm will not recover and the firms are expected to be closed permanently. On the other hand, the broad-based travel restrictions and travel risk aversion have affected all the tourism-related sectors. In the New Straits Times, Thursday, December 2020, it stated that approximately 15% of the hotels in Malaysia may have to shut down their operation due to COVID-19 pandemic. So, for example, is the Holiday Inn Resort at Batu Ferringhi. The resort has been closed by 30th June 2020 after their 4-decade operation. So, we will pass to the next presenter.
Okay, next. For another impact of COVID-19 is on chain of supply. As we already know, the implementation of Movement Control Order (MCO) has brought many difficulties to companies and firms, especially in order to attain resources from suppliers. According to the study of global supply effect on COVID-19, it is said the longer of lockdown period being held, the more value of loss experienced by the company. Moreover, strictness of the lockdown held by the government also influenced the value of loss. Based on the study, the rate of loss occurred in China and Europe are at lowest when the government restricting the lockdown in a short period, which is 3.5% and 12.6% of drop respectively, as compared to the less restriction and longer period of lockdown. The loss increased to 9% and 22.8% at most respectively. Based on the data recorded by the Department of Statistics of Malaysia, the percentage of the imports arrival has been dropped year by year, which is caused by the worsening cases of COVID-19 were at worst. The data shows around 6% of drop in the arrival of imports. Okay, next. Even though the movement control order may bring difficulties to suppliers to deliver the goods, it is still necessary to be implemented as to prevent the virus from spreading. Most of the supplier has been obstructed to move from one region to another region, especially involving the high-risk area. In order to run the business as normal, the rate of cases involving the virus must be mild as it is low chances to infect others. To make that happen, government has implemented the MCO as an alternative solve regarding this problem. Strategies of lockdown are divided into two, which is the first one is mitigation, which can be defined as keeping a slow growth of the infection. The another one is suppression, where it can be defined as reducing case numbers to low level. In order to solve the problem, all parties are responsible to give cooperation. For governments, they are necessarily need to restrict the rules during the lockdown period. Meanwhile, as a civilian, we need to obey the rules set by the government during the lockdown period. Okay, that's all from me.
Conclusion, as you can see, this pandemic COVID-19 does not only affect the health among the Malaysian people, but also affects the Malaysian economy, especially among the companies. These companies need to face a lot of challenges to keep their business still running during this pandemic COVID-19. Despite that, the government of Malaysia has launched the Prihatin package as one of beneficial innovative in purpose to help not only for the Malaysian people but also the companies in Malaysia. That's all from us. Thank you.